Good evening and welcome virtually to the December 2nd meeting of the Glenville Town Board. Please rise for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. For our invocation tonight, I just want to take a moment to recognize the fact that we all collectively celebrated Thanksgiving last week. It's an opportunity, obviously, for all of us to reflect with our families. This wasn't the Thanksgiving that many people had planned. It wasn't the Thanksgiving that many people were used to. And it was a time when you take great opportunity to be with your family and your friends and your neighbors and to engage in the things that are most important to each one of us. And I want to recognize that as a collective community, many of us could not do that. And I know there was a lot of pain and there was a lot of angst and sadness that day. Unfortunately, I just want to take a moment to recognize that, to recognize all that we're going through now, and take just one moment of a quick silence to think about our friends, our family, our neighbors, to give thanks quietly in our own way for all of those things that are so important to each one of each of our lives. So take, if you wouldn't mind, a moment of silence just to take that opportunity. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Here.
Councilman Aragosa?
Here.
Councilman Godlewski?
Here.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Here.
Supervisor Kessler?
Here. So I know a lot of you can't see the agenda. It's not actually a very long agenda tonight. We do have a presentation for the Greenway feasibility study. We also have a resolution settling a tax cert with property at 241 Saratoga Road. We then will do a resolution hiring 2 park seasonal attendants, which is budgeted. We'll approve the town board minutes, and then we have an add-on that would authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with American Petroleum Equipment regarding the replacement of fuel tanks at the highway garage. So those are the only items on the agenda tonight. So with that, I'll start with town council reports, and I'll start on my left with Councilman Godlewski.
Nothing new to report.
Nothing new to, thank you. Councilwoman Wozzowski.
I don't have anything to report, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. Councilman Martin.
Nothing to report tonight.
Oh, Councilman Aragosa.
So I guess I get to ruin it.
The streak is dead.
Just a couple things. Number one, I received an email, just a reminder for folks out there that licenses can be renewed online at the Department of Motor Vehicles website. Just keep that in mind. Try to keep out of places that you don't have to go. Look into the idea of just like the town hall is doing things virtually, and town hall is closed to the public unless you have an appointment. Be aware of that, and when you go forward for the future, for the near future, try to be mindful of that and check the websites or try to do whatever business you have to do in that manner. Secondly, I was on a webinar on Tuesday. Not a webinar, it was a Zoom call with the Schenectady Foundation, talking about the programs that we're working on in the city with the youth and with the parents of those youth that are all working virtually with their school. And in that webinar, we talked about the idea that the county is probably a couple weeks behind Westchester and a couple days behind Westchester and Albany, and looking at probably doing Orange. That means that there'll be a further need for help with feeding people and making sure people are getting the groceries they need as they're being quarantined. That also being said, I'm thinking about the program that we've had going in town for the seniors. I want to offer that if there's anything I can do to help going forward with that. As a semi-retired guy, I have more time than I did before, so that's something I'd like to be able to help with if it's needed. Lastly, this is not a committee report. This is a personal note. I just want to wish my daughter Jenna, my youngest, a happy 20th birthday. Thank
Well,
you.
congratulations. Newborns, 20-year-olds,
My
span the
youngest
gamut
is-
here. Your youngest is what?
She's my youngest.
And my youngest is 19,
It's always
so
good when your youngest is 20.
very close. Okay, so we'll move to privilege of the floor. Hold on, I have a question before we go to privilege of the floor, I think. Which is that? I'm not sure what the question's in reference to, Michael, but if you can type in what you're referring to when you type which is that, I might have missed what the reference is for. But we're going to open, in the meantime, privilege of the floor. So anyone wish to be heard on privilege of the floor on any matter regarding town business, privilege of the floor is now open. If you're interested, raise your virtual hand or type in that you are interested in speaking at privilege of the floor. Your virtual hand you see is right there where it's a picture of a hand. Going once. Oh, I see a hand. So Britt, you are unmuted on our end.
Great. I'm trying to figure out how to get my audio to work or my video to work.
Oh, I think as a attendee, I don't think there's a video option for you.
Okay, great.
Only presenters have a video option.
Okay.
So you are on, Britt. Do you want to speak at privilege of the floor?
No, Michael is going to lead the presentation today.
Oh, okay, Britt. Thank you. You're from
Chazen.
Jason. Okay, excellent. We'll get to that in just a moment.
Okay.
But Britt, because you are a presenter, you should have video. So, but
I
you
know.
signed in as an attendee. I see you listed as an attendee. So if you can try to sign out and sign back in under the presenter link.
Okay, great. Thank
I
you.
don't know.
Yeah, Britt,
You're
the
welcome.
supervisor sent a reminder, I think to us
Okay.
around 9:50
Got it.
this morning.
Got it.
So you could sign back in that way.
Will do.
In the meantime, this is like air traffic controller here. I got the clarification from Michael that he was referring to the question on hit this broadcast. Did I know what he was referring to? Yes. I hit the start broadcast, so it is broadcasting now as we speak. I wait usually till I open the meeting to start that, but it is started and it is recording. But we are still on privilege of the floor. Anyone interested in speaking at privilege of the floor, raise your virtual hand. If not, seeing none, going once, going twice, we've now closed privilege of the floor. So we are now on supervisor's comments. I don't have a lot. I just wanted to go over some revenue stuff and some budget stuff with everyone to keep everyone up to date on what's going on. First, I just want to note on my left, as you can see, we have a brand new flag. Our presentation flag finally arrived. The town's new presentation flag. It's beautiful. I think it's bigger than the state flag, which is probably out of protocol, but don't tell the governor, we'll be okay. But it's beautiful. It's a nice addition to our flag presentation. So I want to thank Rob for getting that all set up for us. Just some quick updates on budget, just so, or at least budget items. I want to update you on our court revenues. We are currently down about 26% of where we would normally be at this time, and that's really wholly due to COVID, obviously. Court, as you know, has been shut down or was shut down between April and through August, and in those 5 months, our revenue fell $93,000 in those five months. And that's down to 40,000 in 2019, and that's down, I'm sorry, it fell from 93,000 to 40,000 from 2019 to 2020 in that same period. We have reopened, obviously. We are seeing a bit of a rebound, but all due because of COVID, we expect to end the year down in revenues about $60,000, a drop of about $60,000
In court alone?
in court alone. Yeah, I have some other items I'll be going through, but We are also, though, seeing now an uptick in activity, however, and the problem now is really capacity through the court. So we're seeing an uptick in activity with the enforcement, and now they just can't get them in here because we can't put as many people through the court. So we're seeing a little bit of a clog. And so we think that we will see an uptick in 2021 potentially as the lag starts to clear, if they can get back to higher numbers of allowing people in. They're actually going reverse right now. They've been limited even further from the court office, how many people they can have in. So we're going to see some revenue issues there in the short to midterm anyway. As far as Metroplex sales tax revenue is concerned, for the first 3 quarters, we're down 10% from 2019. And that's really a mixed bag. We were expecting it to be down more. So we're certainly down, but we're not down as much as we thought we would be. It's particularly based on the sales tax data the state release. We expected a bigger drop, and maybe that's coming. Maybe there's a lag in that as well. We don't know. But if we can maintain the sales tax revenue stream at this level until COVID is behind us, you know, I think we're going to be okay in that line. We'll be down, but not down to the level we thought. If fourth quarter comes in the same as the last 2 quarters came in, we will end about 120,000 below where we were in 2019. So, you know, this is starting to add up when, yeah. So if we had 60,000 down in courts, 120 down in sales tax, we're down 180 right now, potentially by the end of the year. On the bright side, it's not all bad. Our mortgage rates obviously have gone rock bottom and have led to a slew of refinancing. Now, we don't normally get a lot of drivers. You know, the residential market doesn't typically drive the mortgage tax revenue, but in this case, the Glenville housing market is very, very hot. It's the second hottest market in the entire Capital District, and our numbers of sales have been through the roof. And actually, we're seeing a lot of above asking price sales numbers. So that's a great sign. So we're seeing a bit of an increase in mortgage tax, actually. For the first 6 months from April through September, our mortgage revenues increased by 150,000, or up 46% over last year. This could be our best mortgage tax revenue year since 2013. And Glenville really, as I mentioned, has been a standout in this regard. Our mortgage tax revenues are up 24%, while the rest of the county, all other areas, are only up 7%. So we're 3 times what other municipalities are seeing as far as mortgage tax. So that's good news. And lastly, even though we just finished the 2021 budget, we're already looking at 2022, and we have 4 months of our tax cap in for 2022, which currently stands at 1.21%. If 2022 cap comes below 2% again, that would be the 7th time of the 11 years that the cap's been in place that it's actually been below the 2% tax cap. It's early to tell right now, but I think mid and longer term indicators, I think, would suggest that our inflation isn't really going to increase that much over the next 6 to 8 months. So I'm anticipating somewhere between 1 to 1.5 maybe is probably where our tax cap might end up for 2022. That's all I have. The only other item I just wanted to touch on is I and Councilman Aragosa attended a GECC meeting, a virtual meeting, and introduced the solar law, which we'll be talking about went through Codes Committee. It's now with GECC. It will go to Planning Board for recommendation to the Town Board, but we'll have it on our work session next week to talk about that new law, proposed local law coming out, and keep that work moving forward.
GECC will come back with a recommendation before that on the 10th.
They recommend to the planning board, then the planning board to us.
Right.
But yes.
Yeah, so we'll have their data by our next meeting.
Yes.
By our work session.
And let me clarify, it's not a recommendation, it's a seeker determination. Sorry. So GECC does the seeker determination. They will do their seeker determination on the 10th, and then it'll go to planning. We'll talk about it at the December work session, and then we'll probably see it coming to a public hearing in January.
I I'd just like to point out that Bob Titus's thoughts on how they should be looking at it are kind of important to the town as a whole. His suggestion was that when we're looking at the seeker recommendation and whether it's a yes or no or a neg deck or positive deck, we should be looking at it as a committee. They should be looking at it as not just how it affects each individual resident, how it affects the town as a whole, which is very important.
Right.
And I thought his comments were very, and that's a group to me that puts a lot of effort into whatever they do. Appreciate it.
And then lastly, I just want to thank Vicky. I know each week we have the update on the pavilion and pavilions. Things are moving forward, and I think we're going to have it ready to go by the end of this week, at least the Indian Meadows one, and then hopefully the Melwick one is not far behind. But making a lot of progress, doing a lot of color swatches and picking out colors, Vicky. So if it doesn't come good, we're blaming you. And if it comes perfect, it was my keen eye that picked
It
the color.
was. It's all you.
So we'll see how that goes. And then just, I said lastly, but one more thing, the reverse parade is underway, and we're very excited about it. We're getting a lot of positive feedback, a lot of buzz around it. People are working hard to try to pull this together. And so please, again, mark your calendars, December 19th from 5 to 8, drive-through parade. No one can get out of their car. We are, just to keep everyone updated, and I know this might be news to Vicky as well, Earl and I have been in conversation. We've been in conversation with County Health, and we've been in conversation through County Health with the state of New York. And this event has caused some discussion as far as what is it? Is it a mass gathering or is it an arts and entertainment venue? And because really, whatever it's classified as has completely two different guidelines attached to it. And so we're seeking guidance now on that, but the town's position is this is a arts and entertainment venue, not a mass gathering. Nobody's getting out of their car. The only people who are out of their car are performers or people who are exhibiting in the parade. So that's our position. We believe County Health is agreeing with that, and they're just checking with the state to see what kind of guidance they have as well. But we're taking great lengths to make sure people are distant from each other. We're following all the guidelines. No one's getting out of the car, and no contact between the people exhibiting and the people coming through the parade. So it should be a great event. Put it on your calendar, and hopefully we'll see everybody out and we have a nice night. Not too cold, not too warm, not too snowy. It has to be a perfect night. So no problem, right?
Good luck. Now.
Yeah. So that's all I have. We'll move on to the presentation of the Greenway feasibility study. I want to thank all the presenters here. I think Melissa was planning on joining us, but I don't see her on currently. Let me just make sure real quick. It seems as though, and I'm sure, the COVID situation got in the way of this. We started this process. I was trying to think when that was. I feel like it was like early 2019. And we had a lot of committee meetings, and we went out and we did public meetings at the senior center, which we can only dream about doing today. So, good thing we got that done when we could. But I want to thank the team. You guys have been great to work with. It's been somewhat of a long process, but again, I think that's because of the pandemic. And I want to thank you. This is an important project for us, important project for the town. These pedestrian trails, we've invested a lot of money, a lot of effort, and it's been something we're supporting. And so we thank you for your work on this. And I would like to turn it over to, I don't know, is it Ethan, whoever's doing the presentation?
Thank you,
Or Mike?
Supervisor Michael Allen. Michael Allen, I was wondering if you could give me the ability to share my screen.
Yes, now you're really going to test me.
I'm hoping it's not something I do on my end because I haven't figured it out yet.
I think it is, Mike, but I'm going to there's a handout. Is it the executive summary?
No, I have a short PowerPoint to share.
Okay, so you should have a little thing that looks like a computer monitor, and it should be blank right now. If you hit your computer monitor, not the camera and not the microphone, but a little computer monitor. Do you have a dashboard?
Yeah, I have the control panel and I see the computer monitor next to your name. I don't see it for myself. I can request keyboard and mouse control. I don't know if that's the same thing.
Try it.
Oh, it just gave me a little mouse icon.
Okay,
Oh,
I think now there you go. Look at that, we're figuring it out.
can everybody see that?
We can.
It's all downhill from here. Okay, thank you, everybody. My name's Michael Allen with Behan Planning and Design. Also joining us today is Ethan Gaddy from the Chazen Companies, as well as Britt Bassinger, who does not get a slide because he did not tell me he was going to be here. So he surprised us, so he doesn't get a slide. But our two firms have been working together on this, as you noted, Mr. Supervisor, for just about pushing come on a year now. I think we started in early 2019, been working with the Study Advisory Committee, as many of you know, which is made up of the Town of Glenville Supervisor, the Mayor of Scotia, several local town representatives from the Town of Glenville, as well as Schenectady County Economic Development, also the Capital District Transportation Committee, and last but certainly not least, the Empire State Development, who is the funding source for this project. So we're very happy to have their support. Overall, the goals of this were to identify a sort of a long-term vision or a map of a network of pedestrian and bicycle routes, including multi-use paths and sidewalks throughout the town of Glenville and Scotia. The intent here, ideally, is to really sort of connect all the different nodes of residential areas to points of interest, employment centers, shops and essential services to each other, so that people can connect and improve the quality of life, hopefully, for the area, stimulate economic growth, provide some recreational opportunities, as well as providing an alternate means of transportation, reducing traffic and parking demands, and also promoting walking and bicycling. So these are the overall ideals behind it. The final product of this, when this is done, I should emphasize that we're just presenting sort of a draft of the plan right now. We want to try and solicit some feedback from everybody. The final product for this is going to be a vision map of the future trails and sidewalks that we've identified. In particular, identification of 3 short-term priority projects, which we recommend be advanced as more short-term. And with those come an assessment of the feasibility, costs, and what permitting requirements might be required to implement those connections. Just briefly, we started this project out with putting together an inventory of all of the known trails and sidewalks that we had in the area that were known, including existing trails, sidewalks, as well as planned future ones that we know of, as well as future funded routes, things that hadn't been built yet but were funded. And this included taking ideas from some prior documents, including the comprehensive plan, the Alplaus Hamlet plan, and others, putting them all together in one map, which we would then take to the public workshop, and using that map as sort of a starting ground, try and get people to tell us what other connections they would like to make, what are the missing connections they would like to achieve. And with that public workshop, it was pretty well attended. We got it in just before the whole COVID thing cracked down on everything. We had 4 different tables of people that were using maps and questionnaires to try and map out different ideas. And from that from that workshop, and together with some of the ideas that our team developed, as well as ideas from prior plans, we started to map together some of the overall ideas. I'll just briefly sort of take us through. The main one was the sort of the continuation of the Freeman's Bridge Road. Hopefully you all can see my cursor, which I'm trying to highlight right now. Freeman's Bridge Road here, a continuation of that up the Route 50 corridor. That was one of the main ideas, as well as extending. We have the Glen Ridge Road Trail that you had just recently completed, extending that both east and west down Glen Ridge and also Van Buren and onto Drums. Many of the participants were interested in connections to some of the local parks and some of the trails that were in the local parks already. Also connections through the Alplaus Hamlet, connections along the Mohawk River waterfront up to Malwick Park, and some individual improvements to connect to some of the local schools, such as the Glencliff Elementary School. So basing that information off of what we gathered from the workshop, we began to, each trail segment was then sort of given its own code and was prioritized as sort of initial pass to figure out what some of the main priorities were, and then taking that, reviewing it with the advisory team to try and narrow down what would be the three top priority trails. And those are, number one, that we identified in this plan, the Van Buren Road from Stooley Corners at Town Center over to the dog park and Dunn Road. Number two is various connections throughout the Alplaus neighborhood from Glen Ridge Road down to the water. And then three, Route 50, continuing the planned and funded Freeman's Bridge Road Trail, which is going to be constructed up to Route 50, continuing that up to also to the town center. Those are the three priorities that were identified. If we look briefly, just the Van Buren Road would go from Route 50 on the north side of the road, an 8-foot wide separated multi-use path that would continue along and stop just short of the next intersection at Swaggertown. There we have the dog park. This route is mostly doable. It would need some minor easements or property acquisitions just to get enough width along the road, some relocations of some utility lines. The only obstacle is there's a wet patch in here that would need to be sort of crossed right here. Then moving on to the second priority in Alplaus. This is a mix of different things where we have a 10-foot wide path, separated path, which would continue down Bruce Drive from Glen Ridge Road down to Alplaus Avenue. And then from Alplaus Avenue down to the water, it would be an on-road shared path. And then along Alplaus up to the elementary school, Glencliff School, there would be a 5-foot wide sidewalk. There's a little bit more of a detail right here. So it's in this particular case, because of the some of the constraints and the widths, aren't able to do more than a sidewalk here along the Alplaus Avenue area. And so that's why you have the mix of the different things. You have the 10-foot path and the 5-foot sidewalk. And then finally, along the Route 50 corridor, this would be beginning at the northern ends of Freeman's Bridge Road. This would be a 10-foot path following along the east side of Route 50, up past Air and Science, and then connecting eventually up to the existing sidewalks just short of Stooley Corners. This road travels up on the east side for most of the way, except at around Oak Hill Drive, would switch over to the west side it would switch over to the west side and then continue up and connect with the sidewalks that are there. Of note, one of the other options that we looked at was trying to take this path off of the main road to make I think a a gentler path and a quieter, less traveled roadway up along the airport and through here that would basically connect right to town center, town offices where you are. We did have initial reach outs to the Schenectady County Airport, and they were not interested in pursuing or having this trail go onto their property, but we wanted to indicate it here on the plan as an alternative in case that is opened up as a future option. And then,
if I
yes.
could real quick, Michael, on that trail segment right there, you know, there's 3 elements that you really consider with these, you know, bike and pedestrian connections. It's, you know, it's safety, connectivity, and comfort. You definitely get the safety and comfort through the airport, but you're not going to get the connectivity to a lot of the different, you know, commercial destinations, a lot of the residential neighborhoods. So, you know, physically, it's pretty feasible to do something like that through the airport and the county property. But along the Route 50 corridor, you're really gonna access a lot more residential areas and a lot more commercial areas too. So
Certainly, yes. And then also, finally, the draft plan right now ends with opinion of probable costs of what these different trail segments would be, with priority Van Buren, Alplaus, and Route 50. The combined total for these would be about 2.7 million for these 3 priority. On top of that, there would be, we're estimating there's about 83 or 85 properties that would need a sliver of land acquisition to get enough right away to this. We're estimating about a little over $60,000 in land acquisition costs with that. And also the annual trail maintenance of around $7,000 for the additional priority trails that we've identified. And then the last but not least, the report goes into potential grant funding sources and zoning recommendations that would help to support these additional trails. And at that point, I will leave it up to any of you if you have any questions. I know we wanted to try and get through this pretty briefly. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but hopefully that hits the highlights of the plan, and we're trying to open it up now to getting any feedback from you and questions.
Well, first of all, Mike, thank you. I think you did a great job, very concise, and good job kind of taking us around the entire town and showing us all the different priorities. If you can go back to that slide on cost estimate, annual maintenance, what's included in that annual maintenance? Because I know it's not, no, yeah, annual trail maintenance, $7,000. What's that cover?
I believe if I, let's see if I can bring this over. I may have to X out of that presentation and bring this in here instead. What this has gotten into is as far as trail maintenance, and Ethan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, we looked at different trail maintenance costs for comparable trails in the Northeast and what they were doing. And then applied those costs per mile. So if we were looking at an average of $2,500 per mile, then applying that to each of the different priority trails, that's how this number was provided. What exactly is in the 2,500? I don't know. I have to refer to.
So basically, we got these numbers, like Michael said, it's, you know, looking at a variety of other multi-use trails throughout the region in the Northeast, and then taking a closer look at, I think, a more locally relevant example, the Zim Smith Trail in Saratoga County, where, you know, they have, you know, one full-time employee who spends about half his time maintaining about 9 miles of trail. His work is generally mowing the side, making sure that the drainage structures are clear. You know, if you have a little culvert underneath the trail, Making sure there's no vandalism. So, doing patrols, clearing fallen trees. What they don't do is they do not do snow removal on the Zim Smith Trail. I know at the onset of the planning process here, one of the things that came up is, hey, we struggle already to, balance our desire for more sidewalks and the maintenance of the sidewalks. So in that sense, we said, hey, we're going to, show this cost estimate as, about, $2,500 to $3,000 a mile without snow removal. Zim Smith Trail, it opens up to snowshoeing, cross country skiing, or this time of year it's wide open. So it's not a really advanced amount of maintenance. It doesn't include trailhead amenities like restrooms and like wayfinding, but it's asphalt maintenance, mowing, clearing brush, down trees, and drainage apparatus.
And just
we
to
could
pile on, I'm sorry. This is
Go ahead.
Melissa. I apologize, but I did ask Tammy to pull some of the maintenance records based on how much time staff had spent on trails that we have now, and the numbers do match up at this time based on what she told me, and that would just be for things like snow removal or mowing.
I don't believe that 7,000 matches up to snow removal.
No, so the number that table 6 there, that would not include snow removal. Our numbers, we didn't include that in our numbers.
That would be a much, potentially depending on how, snowy the winter is, but we've had expensive winters just on the trails we have now. I know one of the priorities that the highway department put in the budget, and we didn't fund it this year, and we had it out here looking at it, was a $60,000 snow removal machine for sidewalks. That alone, it's not. I think it's going to be a lot more expensive than $7,000 annual maintenance. I just think we need to be aware of that potentially. I think it would require additional hires. I don't think we have within our existing staff the ability to maintain all those miles of trails. So, and those are just cost drivers we have to think about.
Yeah, and in the plan document as well, we outline a number of strategies that the town could employ to defray the cost of maintenance. The Mohawk Hudson Trail has like a ambassador program. They have friends of groups. In Saratoga County, there's groups like Saratoga Plan. It's really finding dedicated volunteers and getting someone to put the energy into organizing them. And you can get a lot of work done in that way. Even just the routine things like cleaning up garbage. You're not necessarily going to get the more critical things like asphalt maintenance that your DPW would have to do. But you could certainly lean on these Friends of groups and tap into existing Friends of groups that are already in the area doing this kind of work, and sort of, open up a dialogue with them and see how to do it. And it could be noted too, spending the money on the maintenance could be well worth it. I know that the town recently received a grant to repair the Mohawk Hudson bike hike trail, which is pretty substantial. And staying on top of the maintenance can help prevent those really big bills later on.
Thank you.
Yeah, but who's paying for it?
Right. I don't know if you heard Councilman Aragosa, but town would still be paying.
Yeah, well, taxpayers.
Right.
Would you like us to also include what we can estimate as far as what the cost for snow removal would be?
I think that's a real, that's a real concern.
If it's not a 24, 365 day a year trail, it's not viable to spend the money.
What I think would be reasonable at this level of planning, I get that this is a strategic development plan. It's really not a detailed like capital plan. I think it would be appropriate for you to raise the budgetary topics that should be considered before trail installations occurs. Do we need to consider new equipment purchases? Do we need to consider new hires or staffing or existing staffing time? Because all, that's where the cost is really gonna come into play. And I think we should have some guidance here out of this document as to what those costs are by topic. Because the other reason why it's not worth it to really try and project numbers at this point, you know, this could be implemented a year from now, it could be implemented 5 years from now, and costs are going to vary widely. But if we have some guidance as to the topic areas to consider, I think that'd be very helpful in a document of this nature.
And I think we have to consider things like, you know, snow removal of the trail system, if the town is going to do it with its internal workforce, is going to almost primarily be overtime work. I mean, our first priority is going to be roads and town properties, and we always then go back to the trails after everything else is done. So, you know, there's some real cost drivers there to consider, I think, and I just don't think $7,000 is going to be an accurate number.
Well, the other thing that's gonna vary here is, like it was suggested, some of the trails by their location and nature may want to be left unattended in the wintertime, and they are useful for wintertime recreation, you know, snowshoeing, but others are gonna be roadside and need to be cleared.
I don't think any of these trails, and you guys can correct me, none of these trails can be left uncleared by state law.
Priority trails are gonna need.
Yeah, these
Yeah,
aren't
I know
park,
the
these
prior-
aren't,
I'm saying if there were any others, you know.
yeah, these aren't park trails. These aren't passive trails.
Right, these are roadside trails that need to be
Right.
cleared, so.
And
I
basically-
don't know about the legal requirements for maintaining those, but we could look into that.
I've noticed in other places, sometimes we put it on adjacent property owners to treat it just like part of their,
Yeah, that would be
That's a
popular.
whole-
sure, I get it. But there are
We call-
economic development,
Rule.
sure, but there are economic development benefits to having those connections that get people out, passing by businesses, and that way they are more apt to go to them.
I think it's fair to say that the 3 priority project trail projects would need to be cleared. You just look
Just
at their
based on their,
location.
based
Right,
on their location, yes.
right.
Councilman Galuski, I think, has something.
I mean, comparing it to Zim, I think the dialogue kind of drew the distinction between the Zim Smith Trail, which I just know the portions that are of the Zim Smith that are over in like in Ballston or Malta. I don't know if it gets to points where it's right on a roadside, but maybe a better comparison for what we're looking to do would be Clifton Park and see what some of their cost drivers are, how they maintain their trails, do they purchase equipment. That might be more of an apples to apples.
And there are different options, and also probably not as popular would be a sidewalk district and just assessment that would pay for, but that's something that's going to meet opposition as well. So there are things to pursue if we wanted to pursue them. But I think it starts with getting really a good budget number. And I just know what we're doing with what we have here, and it's more than $7,000.
Right, a good budget.
Yeah.
And, the idea of sidewalk districts, it's, that kind of works in downtown areas of small cities or big cities, but when you get out to rural areas where people have to travel as far as they have to travel to get from one store to another, it's not a driver of, getting people to come to your store. As a business person, I would be, if I was on Freeman Bridge Road and you told me you're gonna have to do sidewalks specifically, I would be very upset with that.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Because I know you guys are soliciting comments now for the final draft, correct?
Correct.
Part of.
I don't know that we have a deadline for any of this, but we wanted to make sure we got it to you because as you noted, this kind of fell behind with all the chaos and turmoil of the pandemic. So we're kind of fell behind and we wanted to get this to you and get some input.
I'm actually working toward closing out in the January meeting date for ESD.
Okay.
Councilman Aragosa?
Can we put this on our agenda for next work session so that we can talk it over as a group a little better and try to, come, come back with some ideas from the board to
We can, I don't know if we're ready in December because I think we need to have that discussion be fruitful. I think we need a very good budget number. And I'm not going to put that on you guys necessarily, but I think talking with Tom and Jason here, Jason's our comptroller, Tom is our highway superintendent, we could get a good idea of what our labor costs would be per mile. And I don't know if we'll have that by next week.
No,
I mean, I'll try.
That's fine.
So give us till the end of the week and see what we can come up with.
So I think that you've given us a good answer to that.
So it might be January work session, but obviously, as you guys can tell, the budget piece of this is important to us.
Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone to take a look at the draft plan and look into the methodology. I know we mentioned the Zim Smith Trail, and we look at some of those numbers, but those numbers actually also lined up on a mile by mile basis with I think it was maybe Parks and Trails New York, one of their estimates that they provided for annual maintenance per lineal mile. So it was like we took the Zim Smith example for a localized idea of what's happening, and then we took Parks and Trails New York example for a more statewide example, and those numbers were really, really close to one another. So the methodology is outlined in the draft plan, so I encourage you just look into it a little bit too, but certainly put it into local context.
The Parks and Trail had snow removal in it? The Parks and Trail piece, state parks?
No, Parks and Trails New York do not have snow removal on that estimate.
That's what I'm cautioning. If we're not talking snow removal, then we're not talking apples to apples.
Yeah, we priced out we priced out the cost of like a sort of a micro the compact tractor with a snow blower attachment to it, which is approximately $50,000, which is probably pretty similar to the price that you had for the sidewalk maintenance vehicle.
They had said 60,000.
Yeah, I think it was 60 is what we were looking at. But it also had a sweeper on it for the, it had the whole thing, the whole package on it.
I think what's somewhat misleading here though is when you start, diluting these numbers with price per mile and, over miles and miles of trail, it looks like a somewhat favorable number. But the fact of the matter is you still have to incur the capital cost for the $50,000, $60,000 piece of equipment, even if it's amortized over, I don't know, something like that might go 7 years or something like that. It's still a real cost, and it gets diluted when you start figuring these things in terms of length of trail mile and all that. It's not a real number.
I would definitely encourage you to go high on the numbers. If it's not our intent to make the numbers look smaller by any means. So I would definitely encourage you to.
Saying that.
And we have to be sensitive of the fact that we're going to have new costs involved, which includes most expensive new people. That's something we just have to be mindful of.
That's my point.
We agree. We've heard you. And so what do you guys want to talk internally with your staff or the DPW and then get some numbers back to us? And conversely, we can look into some other examples for snow removal, and then maybe we meet back in the middle in December or January and tighten that number up.
I think that's a good idea.
Do we know what our, do we have a deadline with ESD right now in January?
I don't remember the exact date. I have to get just our timesheets, our in-kind and all that kind of stuff in. I think that if we've got a final document that's final-ish, I think that the discussion will have to continue. And I know, we're all also working on a broader park plan that this would be part of.
Okay.
So Melissa, would we want to have that work session in December, or can we hold it off till January, or is that too late?
I would prefer to have it in December. I could push it and get some numbers back from Tammy. She had given them to us before when we started our study advisory committee. And it was Rob's time basically going out and doing any kind of maintenance on the trails. But it may be that our numbers are a little skewed because it was only the trails that we have now. So it's Glen Ridge and some sidewalks. Some of them are getting maintained by private property owners, business owners, like the sidewalks in town center, for example.
Right. So let us do that. We'll push to have the numbers ready by next Wednesday. We'll have a work session. You folks your consultants are invited if you so wish to attend, or if you have any data by then that you want to share. You can certainly, we'll do the same setup here, and we'll have that discussion next week at the work session.
Now that I know how to use it, I'd be happy to come back.
Good.
When's the next work session?
Next week, same time. So it'll be next Wednesday. I can't see the calendar.
The 2nd, so it'll be the next.
The 9th. I didn't even know it was December. That's how fast things are going.
Okay.
7 o'clock. So Melissa will get you a panelist invite again for next week.
Thank you. Okay.
Anything else on it before
No.
we leave this topic? Thank you, gentlemen, very much. You did a lot of, I think, good work. We'll just kind of fine tune some of those things and get this ready for closeout in January.
Okay.
Thank
you all.
Thanks a lot.
We have a lot of good news on trails.
you.
As you pointed out earlier, Ethan, we got funded for that bike trail connecting Shawnee. That we've opened the Freeman's Bridge resurfacing project back open with a path that connects the Maxon Road and the Schenectady side to the Glenville side that, get us to Scotia. Melissa and I are working on the climate smart safe way to schools stuff in Applause and Burn Hills and down at Second Dog Elementary. So there's a lot going on with this. So I really appreciate it because we're making great progress. So thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 8, which is a resolution authorizing a settlement on a tax cert related to 241 Saratoga Road. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Earl, do you want to just touch on what 241 Saratoga Road is and what the tax cert's about?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So this is the KeyBank National Association property, which is not too far from Town Hall. It's on 241 Saratoga Road. There were assessment petitions made for 2019 and 20 in relation to this real property as to the tax roll. There was a settlement made between the town assessor and the attorney for KeyBank. The settlement and what the resolution specifies is that in 2020, there will be a revised assessment of $951,988, resulting in a reduction of $231,011. There will be no refunds for 2019 and 20, which was a good concession for the town by KeyBank. There will be no refunds for the school tax bill for 2021. The other parts of the resolution are that for the real tax proceeding, one of the things that we are will not be doing is if there is a reval. Generally, there aren't any revals, reevaluations, but if there's a reevaluation, that the tax would remain the same. Also, pursuant to statutory law, the taxes will remain the same for the next 3 years, which is actually a good thing for both the town and obviously for KeyBank. And so this resolution puts in the settlement that's been agreed to between KeyBank and the town. And once there's a vote on this resolution, then we'll present a consent order to the judge in Supreme Court, Schenectady County, for his signature, and then we'll file, and it should be, we'll then have the assessor redo or revise the assessment rule.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'm sorry, did you say they're not going to be able to come back to us again for how many years?
3 years.
Another 4 years?
3.
3 years. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's pursuant to statutory law.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 9, authorizing the hiring of 2 seasonal recreational attendants at the budget rate of $13 per hour for our ice rink. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Gina's
it.
for, okay, it's moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I don't have the resolution in front of me, Mr. Supervisor, so I'm not sure if you just want to quickly just
Yeah, so
explain
this-
it. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Allow the town to hire 2 employees, 2 seasonal recreational attendants between December 19th and March 28th, which might be pushing it as far as weather. And the 2 positions will not work more than 40 hours per week, and it is budgeted at a rate of $13 per hour with no benefits. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
And Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 20, approving the town board town board minutes for November 18th. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this is our, one of our pro forma resolutions. This would approve the minutes from the last town council meeting.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments on that? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. We have our add-on resolution, which would authorize the town supervisor to enter into an agreement with the American Petroleum Equipment and Construction Company regarding the replacement of fuel tanks at the Glenville Highway Garage. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
We got it moved and we got a second.
I'll second.
All right, we got move second and third. Any,
On the floor?
We all like.
as you know by the resolution, I know Councilwoman Wozzowski doesn't have the resolution in front of her, but we do have to replace our tanks. This is budgeted as a capital improvement. This is part of a DEC, I wouldn't go as far as saying a consent order, but was part of something that they had pointed out needed to be done. So to good to the environment and to also make sure we're not losing resources we're putting into our tanks through any type of leak. We need to replace these. And the replacement for one 4,000 gallon tank will cost $100,000. And as I said, is included in the capital 2020 budget. Any questions or
Well,
comments?
just to say that it's important that we keep up with maintenance on these tanks, replacing them when they need to be replaced. You know, the cost is the cost, but the cost is a lot bigger if something leaks or you have to do remediation or clean or, you know, just, if you think about what you lose in the fuel that might spill out, it's pairs in comparison to the fines that you'll get from the DEC and the EPA potentially if you don't keep up with this. So it's important that we do it.
That's right.
I think it's something that we all agree on that has to be done. I'd say we move it forward.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Before we get to new business, Earl, I'm going to throw a curveball. I'm going to beg the council's leniency here to go to an executive session. And it just dawned on me before, and Earl looks nervous already, that we need to talk about, we need to update the board and Melissa, if she can stay on the call, and Vicky, on our attempts to purchase a certain property in town. And I want to, before we get too much further in that discussion, update the board and get direction from the board And you'll know the property as we get into executive session, Earl. But it's just getting a sense from the board where they want to be on this negotiation. And I know you, but we'll go to executive session. I'll be able to explain it better.
So are we discussing, we're going to executive session to discuss litigation?
No, not litigation, a negotiation on a potential purchase of property.
Okay. Okay.
And it came up late, and that's why it's not on here. And it just dawned on me, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting. So for the residents on the call, we go to executive session, and there will be no further business after that. So you can stay on the call. We would have to go to a different room and get everyone back on the phone, but there'll be no business after the executive session. So before we go to that, we'll pick up new business, and I'll start on my left with Councilman Galuski.
No new business.
No new business. Councilwoman Worzbowski,
I have nothing, Mr. Supervisor.
Councilman Martin,
Nothing.
Councilman Aragosa.
No.
Nothing. Excellent. So I'm going to propose a resolution to go into executive session to discuss negotiations on the potential purchase of a certain parcel within the town of Glenville. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mike Aragosa, second by Councilman Martin. Moved and seconded. We'll go into executive session. So, oh yeah, it was only moved. So we need to please call the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Worzbowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes. So we will go to executive session. It appears that all the attendees have dropped off the call at this time. The only people we have on the call is Earl, Gina, Vicky, and it appears like we lost Melissa. Are you there, Melissa?
I'm here as the second you.
Oh, you're me.
I'm,
Two
yeah,
Chris Pettsley on this call.
So-
God.
I'm so
Isn't one
sorry.
enough?
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's my
confused.
IT capacity.
So we're in executive session and there's no one else on the call.
You don't want me to stay?
Oh, no, yeah, right. Sorry.
It's okay.
Linda's going to be leaving just a moment.
Hi, Linda.
Bye, Linda.
Oh,
Take your time, Linda.
did everybody sign that?
Linda, I'm sorry I wasn't there to help you with the water.
I know, it was difficult, Gina, but I did it.
You managed, huh? Like our thing.
Yeah,